So I read this lady's autobiography about a year ago, and she inspired me so much that I booked a flight in a tiger moth, which I know she trained in, and one of the many planes that she flew for the Air Transport Auxiliary, the ATA. So who is she to you?
Well, she's Jackie Mogridge, which is my mother, and she was born in South Africa and wanted to learn to fly, basically to show off to her brothers. And she not only got her private pilot's licence, she was the first woman to do a parachute jump in South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, she couldn't do commercial college at South Africa, so she had to come to England.
Oh, so she came over here to train?
To Whitney Aeronautical College in Oxford.
What year are we sort of talking
1938.
about? So just before the
war.
Just
before. She had 1 year in Aeronautical College, the only girl learning to fly, and war broke out. And she wrote to the RAF and said, I'm going to join the RAF. And they said, oh, no, we don't take women fighter pilots. So she joined the WAF, and she became a radar operator.
And it wasn't until all our pilots, RAF male pilots, were being shot down, and then suddenly there was an absolute need for these ferry pilots to ferry all kinds of planes from the factories to the operational centres.
Yes, to the fighter pilots, so that they could take off. And they used all the men. They called it ATA, Air Transport Auxiliary, Ancient and Tired Airmen, tagged, and they used them up.
Yes.
And they then thought, well, we need other pilots, more pilots. They even resorted to women, and that was my mother's chance.
Well, that was a great time for women to actually have the opportunity to fly for their country. And we've got a great photograph of her in front of one of the planes that she flew. And we have a book here, which I always think is like a bluffer's guide to flying. It's nicknamed the Blue Book.
These are her ATA ferry pilot's notes, and there literally is a card for each plane that they flew, and it said all the takeoff speeds and all the landing speeds that you needed to know to fly. You didn't get trained individually on each plane. They had to literally pick one up on the hoof.
What happened to her at the end of the war? Did she manage to get any commercial pilot jobs?
Yes. Once she'd left the war, she'd actually joined the RAF Volunteer Reserves, which was working weekends.
Which is this little badge here.
There. Yeah, and while she was there, she got her RAF wings. But then while she was there, she was looking for jobs, and eventually she got her Channel Airways job.
So what does your mother mean to you, and what personal stories do you remember with you and your sister?
Well, yes, she didn't talk a lot about the war, but she definitely used to say, if you jumped into bed with her in the morning, she would say, do you want to fly Spitfire? She said, let's pretend the duvet's the clouds. She said, hold the joystick. And she said, the Spitfire is such a lady's plane.
It's often been said.
Very delicate, she said, to fly, and her favourite. And she just said, if you want to turn right, you just think you want to turn right, and don't move, just think, and it will turn right.
Now, we sort of come to the very difficult part, and I know this is a fraction of the collection that you have, of putting some kind of value on this, and I know you would never get rid of it.
No.
But ATA, or Air Transport Auxiliary items, very rarely come up for sale.
Do they?
And ATA pilots who are female, you hardly ever see. I think if this came up for auction, there'd be an absolute frenzy, and it could easily make between 30 and 40,000, because she was, well, arguably one of the most well-known Atta girls, and you'd argue the most notable Atta girl. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.